Okay, good. If you enjoyed that, it's very nice to sometimes do the English prayer, just to make you remember what they are. So this morning, I want to give you a really course of lectures. I want to introduce you to the whole subject, which is really important. And the subject is called Developing Awareness, the theme of Jigme Lingpa's Aspirational Prayer. And this is the first part that I'm going to give you. It's very important that you stop me and you ask your questions and you debate lots of things, because by me just giving it all to you, there's absolutely no point to it. You've got to be able to really bring it into your lives. And what I've done is I've taken a lot of the teaching and then added to it from this book, The Citadel of Awareness, which is a commentary on Jigme Lingpa's Dzogchen Aspirational Prayer, okay, by Anam Thubten, who's a very beautiful modern monk, and he is a real good scholar. That's number one. And number two, he is amazing to bring things right to where we are. So he really gives amazing examples and stories and things like that. He really knows how to bring it to you. So I thought that was a wonderful thing. And Jigme Lingpa holds a very, very special place in my heart, which I will tell you about in a few moments, because I want to introduce you to everything. The most important thing in the text is that it's awareness. We are learning to develop awareness. If it's theoretical for you, it is of very little value. I'm not saying it's of no value if it's theory, but I am saying it's of very little value, because I want you to be able to practice this, which is really, really important. So I'm going to start with the story of the poisonous tree that Jack Cornfield wrote. But I mean, it's a very, very common story, but I'm going to start with that story, okay, which is important. And I'm going to explain to you all the things of this prayer. We'll put it up verse by verse, the actual prayer, but we'll do that later when you really have a good idea of the whole introduction to this. So when we look at the traditional story of a poison tree, on first discovering a poison tree, some people see only its danger. Their immediate reaction is, let's cut this down before we are hurt. Let's cut it down before anyone else eats of the poisoned fruit and may die. And so when this resembles our initial response to the difficulties that arise in our life, when we have difficult things, we actually very much want to get rid of them. We want to take them and we want to totally get rid of them. And that's the first response, to avoid them. They afflict us. Let's get rid of them. Now, when you look at your problems in your life, a lot of you say, I've got to get rid of this, or if your children have got problems, I've got to get rid of this. It's not always the wisest idea. But in Buddhism, it's called the Hinayana approach, the beginning approach, or Theravada, it's sometimes called, it's called different names, Shravakayana. It's all about doing it for yourself, about renunciation of the path. All the things you don't want, you renunciate. You shave your hair, you renunciate the beauty, you renunciate the poisons, you do all of that. And that's the first time. Now, other people, and you can look at where you're at, other people who've journeyed further along the spiritual path, discover this poisonous tree and do not meet it with aversion, okay? They have realized that to open to life requires a deep and heartfelt compassion for everything that is around us. Knowing the poison tree is somehow part of us, they say, let's not cut it down. Instead, let's have compassion for the tree as well. So out of kindness, they build a fence around the tree so others may not be poisoned, and the tree may also have its life. Now here we have a profound shift of relationship from judgment and fear to more compassion, and it starts involving everything in the world. And in Buddhism, we call this the Mahayana path. The first, the Hinayana, the Mahayana path, where now we're starting to open, and it's the path of purification. We purify our thoughts, our how we see everything on the path, and we start seeing it in terms of us, we, in a very, very important way. And then a third type of person who's traveled yet deeper in spiritual life sees the same tree. And this person who's gained much vision looks and says, oh, a poisonous tree, perfect, just what I was looking for. This individual picks the poisoned fruit, investigates its property, mixes it with other ingredients, and uses the poison as a great medicine to heal the sick and transform the ills of the world. Okay, and that in Buddhist practice, you can put this even in your relationship with other people, the story of the poison tree. But in Buddhist practice, this is the Vajrayana pathway, which is the path of transformation. And when you look at that path, that Vajrayana path, now it is taking everything in, all your poisons, all your emotions. If it's a poison, it must be energy. It must have properties. It must be something beautiful if we look deeply enough. You don't get rid of anything. You incorporate everything in the Vajrayana path of transformation. And even higher, you know, the Nyingma lineage gives 9 levels of the Vajrayana practice, and the 10th level is the Dzogchen or the Ati Yoga, which takes it from transformation to self-liberation. So we're not scared of anything anymore. Whatever comes up is part of our own mind's essence. And so we just allow it to be, and it dissolves back into what it wants. It's a path of self-liberation. Now, this whole thing of the citadel of awareness and Jigme Lingpa's aspirational prayer for all beings is a Dzogchen pathway. It's right at the top. So you are very, very careful to take the poison tree and start to be able to see what you can take from it, that actually the poison tree has got great beauty and great healing ability in it, as is our anger, as is our disappointments, as of our sadness. And you can debate this with me. I just want to give you a beautiful look at everything. And remember, some people need a graduated path. They need to go on the path one step at a time. They need to write it down. They need to know where they're going, okay? And that is perfectly fine with me, okay? It's perfectly fine. I don't have any criticism about that. You know what you have to do, and the graduated path means you have to do it for many lifetimes. I, on the other hand, am a different crazy yogini, okay? And I needed to leap. I needed to leap over the path. The minute I came to Buddhism, I knew a lot of the things I remembered, and I needed to have a big leap over. And so lots of people have fought with me because I have that leap over, because it's a difficult pathway. And I'm sure Karen's experienced the same thing because she's on that pathway. It's a very difficult pathway because people are a little bit afraid, and they like to have you under their control, and they like you to go step by step. And there's nothing wrong with going step by step. You can take 100 lifetimes, you can take 1,000 lifetimes, and eventually get to see the same thing right at the top of the poisonous tree. But it's up to you, and you can just take out of this what you want and throw the rest away. Now, Jigme Lingpa was an 18th century Dzogchen master. He was actually a reincarnation of Longchenpa. I'm sure all of you have heard of Longchenpa. If you haven't, Google him, look him up, read up on him. I have all his notes in all my folders because what he taught was absolutely amazing. And Jigme Lingpa was his when Jigme Lingpa came into being, Longchenpa intended to pour into the vase of Jigme Lingpa, and in his amazing retreats, he saw visions, different visions going at different levels of Longchenpa. Longchenpa poured into him the whole vessel, and he poured the transmission of the Longchen Ningtik, Longchen, and then another word, Nyingtik. You can also Google all of these things. They were a lineage, a very close lineage, who passed the essence of everything onto, one disciple and another disciple and another disciple. And that's how it was in those days. Okay. And Jigme Lingpa passed it on to many, many beings. And his prayer is part of this lineage and part of what he's got. So if you study the prayer with what I'm going to teach you, you will find great benefit. I don't want you to understand just what is Dzogchen. I want you to understand your life, what you are here for. A lot of you are going into the last third of your life, not all of you. But the thing is that it's really important that you start questioning, what am I doing here? What do I need? Where am I going? What's it all about? Okay. Now, so Jigme Lingpa wrote down the whole lineage of the whole texts of the Longchen Ningtik and transmitted them to his disciple. And we are very blessed to have this in the world for those of you who want to take of it. But remember, and you can also leave it behind and go to the graduated path. There's no problem with that. I'm just going to give you my experiences. So what happened with me and Jigme Lingpa was a very interesting story, because I saw on Amazon.com this wonderful text called the Yeshi Lama. The Yeshi Lama. Well, the name already excited me, okay? And I ordered it straight away and it arrived, okay? When I picked up this text, I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I've been waiting for. But the first page that Keith Dowman translates, he says, don't touch it by yourself. So I'm not advising any of you to get it. Don't touch it by yourself. You must have a master to introduce you and someone to consult with when you use this text. Okay, fair enough. I was going to India for a lovely retreat. So I thought, okay, Taisitu Rinpoche has given me a beautiful introduction, and now I'll take the text with me, and this is what I'm going to work on in my retreat. This is what I decide. You decide, and then it gets thrown away. Anyway, I got there, and to cut a very long story short, because I've still got my diary from that, but I feel like I have to give this to you, because otherwise you'll just go, Jigme Lingpa, who is he? What is he? Okay, he's another great master. I don't want you to think that, because this Longchen Ningtik is a very, very special lineage. And if you happen to really get what I'm saying, you will find a teacher who will help you with all of this. And then you just take a leap. That's what will actually happen. Anyway, so I went on this retreat, and what happened was Taisitu Rinpoche became ill. So I thought, what do I do? What do I do? I'm waiting for him. Then I thought, well, you know what? I'll just read it. I'll read the text through, so at least I know what I'm asking him. And I began. Then he got more sick. Then he went on an operation. Then he just wasn't going to come back in the 6 weeks or whatever it was that I was going to be doing a retreat there. He wasn't coming back. And so I just got on my knees and I prayed, and I said, Guru Rinpoche, Jigme Lingpa, I've got to understand this, and I am alone. There is nobody to help me, and I need to absorb this book. And I did. I started studying it from beginning to end. Now it's got, do you know what a koan is? Koan. Koan is when things are given in a secret language, okay, and you've got to decipher them. It could be a simple statement, but you've got to decipher them. So for example, just to give you an example, and I spent hours deciphering this book. I didn't have anyone to ask. I thought if Taisitu's assistant was there, I would go to him. He wasn't there either. I knew him from my original retreat. He wasn't there either. So there was no one. A sentence like this: the magnificent release in the here and now. The magnificent release in the here and now is not like gaining freedom from material chains. Okay, now just think of that sentence. I said, well, why isn't it freedom from material chains? We're so bound up in our lives. Why aren't we getting freedom? He says Jigme Lingpa said it's not like gaining freedom from material chains. Why not? I contemplated and I contemplated and then suddenly it came to me. It's not like gaining freedom from material chains, because there never were material chains binding us. They were only in our mind. And so it wasn't like gaining freedom from material chains. We already were free. We just had to realize it and recognize it. That was all. And he says, rather natural clarity, which is not a product of the rational mind, is recognized just as it is. Awareness of the now, taught Jigme Lingpa, and that's why he did his aspirational prayer, cannot be generated by concepts. You can't generate it by concepts. It doesn't work, because you've got to go, as my little friend Zongsa Khyentse Rinpoche says, you've got to think out of the box. Okay, Rugari, you're going to university, you're going to think in the box for a whole lot of time, and then you're going to leave it all behind. That's the whole point in the end. So we all had to do that. We had to go through all these intellectual concepts, and in the end, I put them all in the garbage can, okay, because there was no way that I could actually use them, but they served me for the time that I did, okay. Every sentence was pondered by me. It was amazing. And then I came across Anam Thubten's book on the Citadel of Awareness on this prayer, and I immediately had the thought to study it and really present it to you. So I have got a thick text on it. I've got a lot of notes on it that I've written and some of my own to add to it. And I hope that it will help us to actually get to the point where suddenly you know what awareness is. You see, people give these mindfulness training courses and they say, mindfulness, awareness. Do we have a clue what it is? No, we don't. What I realized on that retreat, when I was sitting with awareness in my box right here in my heart and nothing else, and no friends and no people and no master to go to, but in a most beautiful environment. I mean, an environment where it was all there in there. It was so important for me to understand what that awareness is. We don't know what it is. It's actually out of past, present, and future. And a lot of people, when they talk about awareness, they say it's you being in the present moment. Okay, so what people do, because they're thinking with their rational mind, is they hang on to the present moment. They hold it so tight, they can't let it go, and their mind can't go anywhere else. Meanwhile, while you're holding tight onto the present moment, it's already in the past. So we have to go to another dimension called the fourth time dimension, where awareness is in full abundance. We have to get there. And I want to just start with two little stories, and then I want to just give you a few of my things, and then we'll get straight into the prayer. I think for me, it's really important to understand what we're looking at. If I just put up the prayer, I sent it to Bernie, so if I put it up and you read it, what you're going to get out of it in the end. You're going to say, okay, it's a very interesting prayer, nice theoretical thing. It wasn't meant to be like that at all. Okay, so I'm giving you these two stories. They are inspiring anecdotes where people had a spontaneous awakening, a spontaneous awakening. That means you could walk out of this talk, you could walk into the wall, or you could suddenly see something in your vision, and you could have a spontaneous awakening, a glimpse of what that Rigpa, that awareness really is. He says, I heard a somewhat humorous story about a Lama in the Kham region of Tibet who was offering Dzogchen teachings to students. Most of the disciples felt they had realized awareness, Buddha mind, Rigpa. But there was one student, and there's always one student, who just didn't get it. No matter how much his master tried to point it out to him in different ways, he couldn't get it. He didn't give up because he was sincere and full of devotion. One day, the Lama said, pick up a bag of barley from our house and run to the top of the mountain without looking back or taking a single break. The student was so respectful to his master that he was willing to do this. No doubt he was very intelligent, so he knew his master was trustworthy. He didn't just have blind faith. It's important that, because that's where you are making yourself ready for this teaching. He listened to his master's advice, even though it was totally weird. He picked up a bag of barley from his master's house and started running at the fastest speed, carrying this heavy bag. At one point, running up the mountain, he lost his breath and fell down totally exhausted. All his thoughts of past, present, and future, all his reference points, every notion of reality completely dissolved in his exhaustion. You have to exhaust your conceptual mind in order to get it, okay? In that moment, there were no more concepts, and he realized what his teacher was trying to tell him. He had a direct experience of Rigpa when he wasn't trying or anything like that. He was so happy, he wanted to report it to his master, and with childlike joy, he started running to his teacher's house with the greatest speed. He finally got back to his master's house and shouted, now I saw it, I realized it. The master says, I don't care if you're awakened or not, where is my bag of barley? He'd had to go and fetch it, which is such a beautiful response. Instead of saying, well done, wonderful, where's my bag of barley? Okay, he had to go and fetch it for his master. And another famous anecdote about spontaneous awakening concerns the renowned 8th century Dzogchen master and translator Vairocana. Once he was slandered by others, and people made up stories about him. I read them in Guru Rinpoche's book, forcing the Tibetan king Tristan Detsen to exile Vairocana to Gararong in eastern Tibet. So terrible, because when you look at it, that's why it's so difficult to give teachings like this, because you really get persecuted for doing it because people are really uptight about it, okay? So eventually, Vairocana was allowed to return to central Tibet. On the way back, a very old man met with Vairocana and asked him, where are you from and where are you going? Vairocana replied that he came from Gararong and was going to central Tibet. The old man said with a disbelieving expression, that's unbelievable. Why don't you rather stay in Gararong and study with the master Vairocana? You must be deluded. He said, Vairocana, that's me. Okay, he said, that's me. At that moment, this man was so happy and joyous that he hugged Vairocana and cried for a while. He said, I'm old. Give me the teachings that will benefit me at the time of death. Vairocana accepted his request. Most probably this old man would not have understood a scholarly lecture. So instead, Vairocana did something quite improvisational. He put his meditation sash around the old man's body and invited him to sit. That simple act by Vairocana became a pith instruction called a Dham Nak. And in that moment, the old man spontaneously awakened to the nature of his own mind. This old man is a very important figure in the Dzogchen lineage. His name is Pam Mipam Gompo. So there are countless such anecdotes of spontaneous awakening where the three auspicious circumstances, an awakened master, a lineage with a blessing, and devotion all come together for you to recognize that Rigpa. So I'm just going to give you a couple of the experiences I had in my diary. You know, I used to write a diary always on retreat. The reason I wrote a diary was not that any of my experiences are so unique or so wonderful, but I found when I wrote a diary, I could come back home. When I was going through difficult times or anything, I could go back to that diary and look at it and not try and re-experience it. You can't do that, but I would try and understand what I had understood there, because the minute you come back into samsara, you're back into all the crap. That's the point. You go right back, and it's really difficult to have those experiences again. And Jigme Lingpa said, in the present, happiness and sadness, and I wrote it down, are enacted. Happiness and sadness are enacted as if ephemeral moods are real. We think they're real, happiness and sadness. And if we do, this produces a subconscious cachet of futile karma that's going to determine our future. In other words, what you're going through is no thing at all. And if you attach to it, it's going to then start creating on a relative level karma. And he says we need to eradicate the mere names, the imputations, the misinterpretations. And when we make things solid, that are always part of our conscious experience through study and reflection and devoted-based activity. So now I wrote, there was I. These young monks were having a soccer tournament. Okay. And the soccer tournament, I was on this side of the mountain, and the soccer tournament was going to go on for about 3 days. Okay. It wasn't like a one afternoon off. And they were screaming and drumming and shouting for the different teams. And they were going absolutely mad. The noise was unbearable, okay, for someone who came to a quiet place to do retreat. At the same time, the one day there was no electricity, there was no sunshine, there was a terrible noise. I hardly had food, there was no help, no friend, nobody, no master. And I screamed in my room. Probably everyone in the retreat center could hear me. What am I doing here, Guru Rinpoche? What am I doing here? And then I sat on the bed and I just got this answer. It was so clear inside me. It said, why are you looking externally and judging? And with that answer, the answers always came so clear to me when I'm sitting in a silent retreat for a long period of time. They came so clearly to me that I really, really, really thought it's true. Let me get on with the job at hand and let me just let it all go. Let me be a part of the noise, which if I hear it clearly, I'll be hearing mantras. I will not hear the screaming of the soccer teams and all of that kind of thing. I will hear the truth. It was really, really difficult. But let me tell you something. I really understood that. And that's why I could take Jigme Lingpa's cones, all these complex sentences, and really understand them. And then during that retreat, I also did the Dzogchen Rushin, the Nondra practice of the Dzogchen. And in it, Jigme Lingpa gave these instructions that you had to really act out, and you had to do the talking of each of the 6 realms of samsara, okay? And it was kind of the same as the little man who ran up and dropped his barley, and suddenly was able to see. When you do that practice, you start in the hell realm. You've got to act it out. You've got to shut. You've got to burn. You've got to freeze. You've got to do everything that you have in a hell realm. And after you've finished, I ran from one side of the retreat. You're supposed to do it naked outside in the open, but I didn't dare do that while I was in the monastery. But I mean, I did it in my shrine room. I'm sure people heard me shouting and screaming, going through the hell realms, the hungry ghost. In the hungry ghost, I went around my room, holding on to everything that I possibly could, grasping, not getting what I wanted, not getting the silence. I was a real hungry ghost, okay? I really saw what it felt like to be a hungry ghost and an animal. I was a buck looking all over the place, waiting for a lion to come and eat me, not being able to find food, too much food, too little food, not a nice home, not this, not that. I was an animal. Then I was a human. Well, the human, I said, I really don't have to act this out too much. I act it all the time because I'm a human with their desires, with their, this is wonderful. I'm making money. It's absolutely fabulous, not even knowing that that was dukkha, suffering, and that we were attaching to it as we do in the human realm. And the jealous gods, how they're always jealous of what everyone else has got. And I thought, oh, it must be so torturous to be jealous. And then the God realm, where you are the most beautiful creature in the most beautiful world. But soon it passes. And soon you have to go through a most horrific death of about 500 years and then go right down below to the human realm to try and learn. And when I did this, it exhausted me, absolutely exhausted me. The idea of being exhausted is so that you can leave the human part of the mind behind and you can really wake up out of the box to your beautiful nature of mind. And so all of these were what I really learned. And just one more comment, and then I'll leave it and throw it open to you. Jigme Lingpa said, a renowned bodhisattva in his final existence, treasured in the theater of both comedy and tragedy. You know how many times I read that sentence? A renowned bodhisattva in his final existence, treasured in the theater of both comedy and tragedy. How can you be in comedy and tragedy at the same time? Yes, you can. Because when you're laughing and you've got everything, you don't even know that that is suffering. We just don't know anything. We just in this human realm, and we just don't get that what we're seeing is not what it should be. So I'm throwing open, that sets the stage for us to really go into Anam Thubten's book. And I think you'll really enjoy it, just to give you an idea of how Jigme Lingpa puts out everything. I mean, in that retreat, I had such a beautiful relationship with him. I felt his presence, I felt his energy, I felt his comments, I felt everything in that retreat. And so I really think that he was somebody who was a no-nonsense guy, but he also had such a hard time because he was criticized by the other lineages for actually leaping over and being free. So let me open that up to all of you to see if there's anything you want to say. Comment, ask, anything that you touch on that touches your heart and you want to know. Oh, sorry, Rugari, please go for it.
Hi, Mel. Hi, everybody. So a question, I want to go back to, there was something you were saying about the poison tree and how, you know, with the different levels. So at that highest level, you are taking what is a poisonous fruit and then, you know, extracting what's excellent, what's good in it. And so you're relating it to things like, okay, so our anger, likewise, our disappointment, all of the sort of negativities. So I'm wondering about that. I mean, to be honest, I think I'm more at the causal level, just because I don't know, I'm trying to understand path, and I kind of like that direction. But I really in my heart, because the stuff that I read and even the lamas that I just connect with are really talking more about that transformation, like applying the antidote. And so I don't know, I guess in how to, maybe it is just the path I'll travel, but how to put that together. So specifically, my son, he started creche, which I'm very happy about because it's given me a bit of free time again to meditate, to like join in and focus and know at least he's somewhere safe. But I just feel like there's been a lot of encounters with different people where they're not being transparent, or I feel they're not. And then, I maybe talk about it and resolve it. But I'm in this place where, I've had a lot of disappointment with people being fake, with people not being honest. And so that's really a lot of my hunger, even with Dharma, is where is the truth? But I hope I'm not doing it like almost just to be pious, right? It's really, and not to be averse, but it's really, I want the truth of the truth in what's happening with whatever's happening.
Okay. And what you're saying is really true for all of us, because, one of the things I learned, I forgot to say it when I was talking about the awareness, was that when I'm in retreat, then I'm totally aware, and I should be able to carry that outside, but I don't, because as soon as you come into samsara again, you're distracted by this, you're distracted by that, you're distracted by everything. The thing is that, it's such an interesting thing to think of truth. And I've got Dzongkar Khyentse, just let me see, because he wrote the most amazing thing on truth in Prajna. He actually said, just let me see if I can find it quickly, because it will really give you what you want. He said, merit is when you have real curiosity and longing for the truth. The ability to understand Dharma is real merit. The ability to communicate with others is merit. But he says, Prajna, it's the truth. But how can we get to the truth if we're still holding on? I just want to see here. He says, he was talking about common sense. Okay, now common sense comes with your sem, your human part of your mind, when you're looking for truth. And he says, we think it's wonderful to have common sense, but he says it's actually the sense of sem, the human part of the mind, common sense. It's the logic by which we live by. How strange that we taught common sense and it keeps us in sin. Now, when he was talking about truth, you can only really understand truth when you actually let go, when you let be. Then you can understand truth. Otherwise, you can only understand your idea of truth. And the sad thing is that when your idea of what truth is, and there may be some truth in your idea, but it's not the truth. The truth is when you touch that absolute bodhicitta heart, when you get to what they call Tiglanachik right in your heart, when you unite with it, then you know the truth, but there aren't really words. That's what Anam Thubten says. There aren't really words. So they just make up words that are near the truth. But when you really want to find out the truth, you can't find it. You can do your studies. You can say, it's like this, it's like that, it's like this. It's not like that, it's not like this, it's not like that. You can go on and on and on and on analyzing. You won't get to it. The only time you'll get to it is when you just let everything be. There's no other way. You think out of the box. You get beyond what you usually are used to. Now, for a lot of you, this is really frightening stuff. You go, no, I need to know, I need to know. But you, with your particular thing, and you're going to have a little bit of time when you come there and you've settled in, to be able to just sit and let everything be. And that's when you'll know the truth. But when you know the truth, you often can't express it to other people. Okay, and what you're seeing in the other people is their truth. It's really a lie, but it's what they believe. I could even see on this family discussion, when we were having meals and everything, and everybody in my family is dominating and gives their opinion and all of that kind of thing, And I just listened sometimes, and there were so many things that I thought, geez, I could tell you differently about what you're talking about, but I didn't. Okay, because it wouldn't be understood. So when you walk around the world, you listen to what people are saying, to what they believe, to what they're clinging on to, which causes all the realms of samsara. And it's quite frightening and quite annoying. But eventually you learn to be able to sit with your own truth, which is so important. I hope that kind of answers what you're saying, because it's really important. You've got to know it yourself, and that's it.
And it does, Mel, what you're saying. I mean, I really, especially when you're talking a bit about like your family, but not just them, but you can listen to what people are saying and hear that, this is not it. So, for example, yes, respect is a big thing, I think, in any culture, but especially in Shona culture. It's almost ridiculous where it's like it crosses over into control, and you sort of give away your power. You just give away your ability to just be a person and think logically. And so, for example, like, I love my mom. She's a good granny, but it's like she was overstepping where I'm the mom. There's responsibility for my son. And she was now dominating and putting herself in the group and all of this, coming too much, too fast. And so when we came home, I didn't shout, I didn't yell at her. I mean, that would be my sort of usual response, but it's just been time of sitting and being quiet. So I just came home, I kept quiet, and I said, Mom, I'll see you later. I guess I could feel my vibe was annoyed, but at least I wasn't going into fight mode. And I can see that with my family, that's something that they can see shifting, but it's annoying them because they're used to me sort of like coming at it and we fight it out, and then it's like explosion and then silence. So that's been interesting to be able to just step back and say nothing. But I can see how it's unnerving people. Like you can see them kind of like, oh, what now?
And the thing is that that's how we live the whole life in samsara. That's how we live it, because people have got other ideas. They've got their own ideas of truth, their own ideas of religion, their own ideas of everything. You can't change that in people until they are ready to take the change. And I think many, many people, that's why Maitreya's got to come, and he's got to take all of this away. So if you've got it now, then during the eons of Maitreya, when Maitreya comes for the 2,500 years, whatever it is, you'll still be able to keep, because a few people will be able to keep that truth in their heart. But when he comes, he's just going to bring Maitri, loving kindness, and he's not going to bring this freedom. And when you hear what Anam Thubten actually says about the times and what it's like and why this teaching is so important now for all of you, you'll see what he says. He really, really says so many things. He says there are lots of people. He says many people today in both the East and West are becoming fascinated with Dzogchen. He says, yet there have always been people throughout history with a great interest in non-dual teachings. Why? He says, because firstly, they have the mindset that can capture these profound teachings. Secondly, people are really longing for liberation, and they're secretly tired of endless spiritual practice. They just want to wake up right now, not in eons of time. Now, if you're one of those people, it's so important. And then just to answer another of your question on what he says, it feels like we are living in an intense time where there is so much confusion, as well as so much potential. I just think about that. So much confusion and so much potential all in one go. He says there's a hunger for inner freedom that comes when one sees that the wheel of delusion, confusion, and neurosis is exhausting. We have opportunity and circumstances required to practice a profound Dharma, such as Dzogchen, which skips you right over. So you have to be able to, that's number one. And number two, you have to, with this truth, you have to look at the situations that you are in. Why? Why am I in this situation where no one understands me? Why am I in this situation where I have access to the leaping over, but no one can follow me? Why am I in a situation where there isn't a master next door I can run to? Why am I in a situation where this person keeps annoying me? Why am I in a relationship where this and this and this and this keeps happening to me? These are so important because you're in the right situation. And if you can view it differently with your awareness, then it changes the whole concept. You're quite grateful to have difficult people around you. Anyone else? And then let's do a little meditation and go on to the teaching, which is really rich and beautiful. Anyone or any of you want to say anything? No. Anybody? Are you all okay? Gail, are you okay? Because you've usually got a lot to say. No, okay. Anybody? I think that poor old Betty has just come back, so she's still pondering everything to get it all together.
No, that's not true. I'm really with it, and I'm very, very, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Good, 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 good. And that's really important. Tati, you okay?
Just one thing that you mentioned when you were talking about Maitreya. You said he's going to bring loving kindness, but not the truth.
No. I didn't say not the truth. I said loving kindness, but not this real self-liberation truth, because people won't be ready for it. Not that he won't give it, and not that he wouldn't give it to anybody who really could understand it. He can look into you and see who can understand it. And I'm sure, just like the Buddha didn't give it to the masses, he also won't give it to the masses, but I'm sure that he'll give it to the few people that, that really do understand. But the thing is, I go back to Dzogchen Khyentse's point that he says, the Buddha taught Cinderella teaching. Okay, Cinderella teaching. The stories, the making it so you can understand. Okay. And I've told you that a lot of times we need Cinderella teaching because we can't understand the pure undiluted truth. It's too frightening, it's too threatening, and it's too much because we need to take our little human mind and put it in for analysis, but we'll never get Rigpa, the full awareness through the human part of the mind. We'll get an idea of what Rigpa is, but we won't get it. We won't be, when you're knowing, you are in that circumstance. What I realize when I'm in retreat, when I'm looking at other people is, they're just not there. You can see, even when you're teaching, you can see who isn't there and who is there. Because what people do is they sit and they listen to something, but they've got their own agenda and their own thoughts and their own stuff going on in their mind all the time. So then they hear a version of what you're saying, which is how it is. And the Buddha knew this, and he said, I have to give Cinderella teaching. Okay, because if I don't give Cinderella teaching, then I won't be able to put the Dharma over, and they've asked me so nicely, and I would rather go and meditate in the forest, but the gods asked me so nicely to give it. So what happens is, what Anam Thubten says is, Buddhism and other spiritual traditions have two dimensions. One is exoteric, which can be communicated very easily to people. The exoteric can be communicated easily to most people. And esoteric often appears obscure and only a few understand it, okay? Because it's the inner teaching. And he says Dzogchen cannot easily be put into either of these categories. On the one hand, its truth cannot be easily understood by most people. It requires a special mind or level of spiritual development to really understand it. Yet, it's not esoteric, because the truth it expresses is both profound and very, very simple. It's simple. It's not shrouded in trappings of magic rituals and abstract theories. It just is simply being right here in another time dimension. It's simple, but we can't do it. Why can't we do it? Because the minute we are here, we are thinking about what we're going to do later. We are remembering that there's a cake in the oven. We mustn't forget to switch it off. We are hearing the baby crying and we're wondering if anybody's going to get there before us. We are thinking about what we have to cook for supper that night. We are thinking about our child who was suffering that day. Our mind is all over except absolutely where it should be. And so it's so simple, but we can't do it, including me. I do it much better on retreat, where there are no distractions, than I do in this life.
So does anyone teach how we can live our daily life as close to that as possible?
Yes, that is what this prayer, aspirational prayer of Jigme Lingpa, is about. And what Anam Thubten has actually done is, he has made it into language that we can understand totally. And that is the language by which we lead our lives. And I wanted to give this already a few months ago, but didn't, because it was a big group and I could see there were not a lot of people that would really be able to absorb it or would turn it intellectual. But now I'm perfectly comfortable with all of you, because I know that the people that are here are very devoted and really want to know about, they want to get further in their spiritual progression. That's so important to me. And if you do, and if you follow the instructions he gives long instructions on each verse, you're bound to at least get to some way of understanding Rigpa and awareness. Okay, so let's do a quick meditation, everybody. I thought I'd do it at the beginning, but it goes blah, blah, blah. Okay, I want you to just sit. If you are near the sky, like I can see the sky from here, then I would like you to sit in your meditation posture and look at the sky, if you can, because the sky is the most beautiful analogy. You too can look at the sky. It's the most beautiful analogy for your nature of mind, for Rigpa. Because as we look at the sky, clouds come in and out of the sky, shadows come in, aeroplanes drive in, and the sky never changes. But the expression of the sky changes all the time. There's a wind, we see the leaves blowing with the sky in the background. We see a cloud coming up. We see lots of things happening in the sky. And we know that our mind is like the sky. It can accommodate absolutely everything. It's spacious, it's open, It's pure, it's luminous. The sun makes it very luminous. And we're just looking into the sky. As soon as we are looking, a thought arises. Oh, this is so beautiful. Oh, I need to not forget to phone so-and-so. Oh, I had such a bad night's sleep and I'm feeling exhausted. Oh, I'm so cross about that, what that woman said to me yesterday. A million thoughts. And I want you to just be fully aware as you breathe in and out. In. Just be fully aware when you drift off to thinking. Just simply bring the mind back to the breath. And then it goes out again. Simply bring it back to the breath. And all the things that you are holding on to, what you have to do, where should you move to, what shopping you need to finish, what you need to make for dinner, all those thoughts, see them like balloons in your hand, holding tight onto the strings, and just open your hands and let the strings all go up, up into the sky. Watch them. Don't touch them. Don't go after the yellow balloon or the red balloon or the green balloon. Just watch as they really rise up, freely going into their own dimension. Thoughts are like that. Mind Rigpa is just like the sky, open, spacious, room and space for everything. We train that mind. Every time you go out with a thought, every time you grasp onto it, every time you think it, you become aware, you bring the mind back to the breath, in and out. And this training has got to go on every single day. For 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Just bringing yourself back to pure awareness. Out of the pure essence comes all these thoughts. And if we just let them be, they dissolve into the essence. If we go after them, we make them tangible, we make them analyzed, we make them dissected, we hold on to them, our mind is concentrated onto them. We just let go. As James Lowe said, if you pick up a pen in your hand, your hand is holding onto the pen. It can't do other things while you're holding onto the pen. Drop it. Open the hand. Open the mind. Your mind is the same. If it hangs on to the thought, it can't actually see Rigpa, the pure, intrinsic awareness. Just knowing, just being. The Dzogchen masters give instructions like this. Just be there and do nothing. The opposite of what our parents have told us. Do something, be busy. And they say, just be there. You're breathing in and out. And just do nothing. Let all the balloons go. Let the thoughts go up into the sky. Just leave them. They're not distraction because they're made out of the same essence. no other instruction but this is the best way to get to Lingpa. Your eyes wide open so they can look right into the sky, because the eyes, the channels come up and they go into the eyes, and then you can see the whole world in pure spaciousness. That's your training. That's the Dzogchen training which Anam Thubten will give you, because he's had it himself in a beautiful way. That's all you have to do, okay? And he says that he used to chant the liturgy of this aspirational prayer when he was young. So it's part of his being now. He makes the point that whatever we do regularly at an early age, even the foods we eat a lot at an early age, stay with us, and we might long for them when older. And that makes me think, when he says that, what a pity I wasn't exposed to all this. And I keep saying to Guru Rinpoche, please, if I'm going to have to come back, then please let me come back straight away into this teaching, not go through all the intellectual rubbish and then find my way back to it. So Anam Thubten says, Rigpa, or awareness, is the most important theme in all of Dzogchen. When one experiences Rigpa, it often doesn't come as a grand vision or experience. It can be shockingly simple, because it's a shock to your being. We must not mystify it, as this can be a hindrance. It's with you all the time, whatever you're doing, where you're going, not something mystical. Dzogchen masters often take a lot of time demystifying Rigpa. He says, throughout history, there were many who came to crossroads on the spiritual journey, where they wanted to no longer be bound by the chains of the mundane world and free of the chains of dualistic doctrines of all religions. That's me. Just, when they tell you, this is what you've got to do, this is what, even when I come to Buddhism and it starts telling me, you this, you that, you the other, and this is what you've got to do, and this, I can't. It just turns me off straight away. I want to be free to really allow that nature to be kind and good to other people, not the other way around. And he said these people needed a more radical jump into absolute freedom. Many people opposed Dzogchen for this reason, and it was often kept secret. Now, as I'm giving it to you, I'm not giving it to you because now I'm saying you must go on a Dzogchen path. Not at all. All I want to do with all of this teaching is just to give you an idea of what the freedom feels like. Those of you, like I know Karen, who goes on that journey, will always do it no matter what, because you've done it for a lot of lifetimes. Okay. For some of you, it's a totally new experience and you haven't done it in previous lifetimes, and don't in any way feel alarmed. Oh, I can't do this and I can't take a leap. I don't mind if you don't take a leap. I am perfectly happy. If you just have a little bit of an understanding of it, that's fine. Absolutely fine and enough for this life. Originally, Dzogchen, he says, was taught in India by masters such as Garib Dorje, who was the first master, Manjushra Mitra, who was Manjushri, one of Manjushri's incarnations, Sri Singha, who was the master of Padmasambhava when he was on the earth plane. Then in the 8th century, brought to Tibet from India by Padmasambhava and Vimala Mitra. Now it's very interesting because India was the place where it was all taught. And now India is not the place where it's all taught except privately. So what happened was, Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche says the best thing that India exported was the Buddha Dharma. He said they exported it and it will come back again. It's like cycles. But what happened was that, it came from India into Tibet, and Tibet, with Padmasambhava being there, formed it into termas and buried them, and we could actually get it. And I don't know how long we'll be able to get this teaching. Varachana, who we just heard about, translated numerous Dzogchen texts at the Sami monastery, especially the Dzogchen Tantras, from Sanskrit, and it became the lineage that continues today. Dzogchen is the abbreviation for Dzogpa Chempo. This is a very important term, Dzogpa Chempo. It's called the Great Completion, or the Great Perfection. Okay, it's called different names. It was always called the Great Perfection, and now I read that lots of masters call it the Great Completion. Okay, because it completes. It means, Dzogpa means completion, which denotes all phenomena of the outer world as well as the mental world, this entire existence that we perceive, samsara and nirvana, are completely contained within the realm of the nature of mind, called Semni. Pure awareness, or Rigpa, everything is just a pure display of Rigpa. Nothing is separate from it. That's what's called the Great Completion. So remember, all your poisons, all your angers, all your delusions, they're all contained within the same thing. There's no difference actually. And it's when you can see this and experience this that you're free of the poisons. Never in any other way are you free. When you change the poison and you use something else instead of the poison, you're not free because you see the poison as the enemy. But the poison, as I said, is confusion and potential, because what your anger is made of is energy. And that energy can be seen as mirror-like wisdom, same energy. That's what you have to understand by the word Dzogpa. Okay, Dzogpa means that, and everything is a pure display, nothing separate from it. And Chempo means great, means enormous. The truth encompasses everything, and nothing is excluded from the truth. Great also means the highest truth there is. But that's in answer also to your question, Rigari, because it incorporates everything. The truth is not just this beautiful truth. Then you haven't got it. Then you're saying with your human mind, oh my goodness, if I'm caring and I give service and I give this and I give that, then that's it. No, 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 no. Because remember the example of the poison tree. The highest level takes the poison tree and says there's a lot in this poison tree that I can extract and use. When you've gone through sadness and you've gone through bereavement and you've gone through anger and you've gone through persecution, you really can understand. Like we're watching these Roman emperors. Oh my God, Julius Caesar. I mean, Julius Caesar, he was such an amazing man. He actually had the highest insight, apart from being a very good soldier. But he just was merciless. If you got in his way, he killed you. Again, anybody who was in their way got killed. But he had the most unbelievable insight into everything. But eventually, he just wanted to be great. He wanted to be, and his ego, he had this ego of what he wanted. He wanted to be absolutely great and powerful. And he took He took all the power from the Senate and everything, and then the Senate comes and kills him. I remember from doing Latin when he looked up, and there was Brutus, who was supposed to be loyal to him. He was kind of, I think, a bit of a stepson to him, or a son maybe. And Brutus put the last dagger into him, and there he was on the floor. And then what happened with the Senate was that because they actually loved Julius Caesar because he gave them freedom, his death caused the most terrible chaos. And many of the members of the Senate killed themselves. I was looking at all of this while I'm doing my work. I look with one eye and I do my work with the other eye because I'm trying to clean out my cupboards and get them all done now. So while I'm doing this, I'm watching this with one eye, and my mind is going, oh my God, can you imagine a being like Julius Caesar without his ego? He really understood what the people needed. He really knew when they were hungry. He knew all of these things, but he just couldn't stop with his ego. He wanted to have total control and dominance like Putin and Xi Jinping and everything. And that takes them to many, many eons of in the hell realms and things like that, from all the killing and all the needs of their ego. What a pity. What a pity. And so Dzogchen uses poetic expressions to describe the nature of mind, because they aren't really characteristic, but it uses luminous, spacious, limitless, not contracted. It also has intuitive insight. You just know, you know. So you might even be dying, you might even be killed by somebody, but you know, and you're awake and you're aware that this is just a temporary transient thing, that there isn't really death. That's what it is. It's not about being good and serving. We can do that, and that accumulates merit on a relative exoteric level. But we need to understand that the energy of the universe and everything all comes out of the essence, so it must be the same content as the essence. We just interpret it in a negative way, and we give it solidity, and we clutch onto it, and we want it a particular way. That's what causes the problem, not it of itself. Do you all understand what I'm trying to say? It's so important that you understand this, because he says there are 3 auspicious conditions for radical awakening. This is radical awakening, means suddenly knowing, suddenly waking up.
Mel, you're frozen. Mel?
In the next lifetime.
Mel, you're frozen.
Is ready, there will be the master without a single doubt, because the disciple is the hook, the actual hook to get that master. It can't help itself. It will hook the master. And when you've got that, you will hook the master. And then you need the right circumstances. Number 2, am I freezing? Am I? Oh gosh. Okay, I'm sorry. Did you not hear that? Sorry.
There was a section that was totally, you disappeared, but you've come back now.
No, you froze when you said wake up.
And then you disappeared.
I
Yes.
disappeared, so you got the right message. It must have
We
Exactly.
didn't hear the finale of what we were waking up to.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on that chair here going, I've missed it.
The last you said was 3 conditions for radical awakening.
Okay. Well, then it's right, the right master, the right circumstances. And I said you'll get that master in some lifetime somewhere. The right circumstances, you need the lineage with the blessing. The most powerful Longchen Ningtik of the Nyingma lineage started in the 18th century with Jigme Lingpa from Longchenpa. Now, it's very interesting. Because when I went to Taisitu Rinpoche, who is a Kaju lineage, and teaches Mahamudra, that's his main thing. Mahamudra leads to the same place as Dzogchen, just a different, it's more of a graduated path. But you know what I said? I said to Taisitu, is in your monastery, is Dzogchen included and accepted? He said, my monastery is called Talpung. And he said, Talpung means it incorporates everything in the teaching. And I found that so interesting. He said, everything that you need is in that monastery. So it is essentially a Kaju monastery, but he said it contains absolutely everything. The teaching you need to do, the path you need to go. And that's very important. And you will find that. I mean, you might find that even with our masters. I know that Akom Rinpoche was a Dzogchen master. He just taught the Mahamudra and he taught, but he was a living example. He never needed to sleep. He would just see things at the back of his head. He would give service wherever. He was right now, in the moment, awake, seeing absolutely everything. He was the best example of a master like that. And he'll come back. You might, a lot of you who are younger might get the opportunity of having.
Mel? Hello, Mel?
A longing to wake up. Is it
Mel, you're cutting out again.
of Dzogchen helps so much because you can have spontaneous awakening, but it's a longing to wake up. I can't express to you more than this to say. Longing. Not ours. Just mute yourself if it's your doggy. Okay. A longing to wake up. I have that longing more than anything else in the world. And sometimes that longing can be sad because it takes you away from the attachment to all the things. You know, people have said to me, like, when your children left, you must be very sad. I do have a sadness in me, but it's okay. It's okay. I know what I've got to do in this life. I know that all of that is temporary, transient, and I know what I need to do with this life. And that's the important thing, the knowing, the awareness, the Rigpa. Do you all understand? So next week, we will start actually right directly with the poem. And I'll put in my thing, please, if you haven't listened and you haven't been here today, please, next time, do this introduction. The introduction is very important because if you just take the prayer and I just give it to you, if we take the prayer and I give it to you, it's too small. It's too, our minds are not ready. I'm hoping that by all the things I've said, that you can relate to me and you can take some of these things into your lives and what you want. That's so important to me. You know, and I think that it's really important for all of you to know that there is a way, there's lots and lots and lots of books you can read and study and times to spend to understand this prayer. But right in the very beginning, he says, homage to glorious Samantabhadra. And Samantabhadra, that's such an important sentence in the prayer. We'll put it up next time. But Samantabhadra is your true nature of mind. Samantabhadra isn't a little Buddha. Samantabhadra is your true nature of mind. So when you greet Samantabhadra, you are saying homage to my nature of mind. That's all we need. We don't need anything else. So I hope today has been a little bit beneficial to you. I hope you can really relate to it. I'm going to stay a few minutes so people can ask me and talk to me, but I hope that you can make something of it, and then we go digging straight into the prayer. Yes, Mimi.
Yeah, I just want to ask if, no, just a general thing. If Burns can send us the prayer.
With pleasure.
He made it to us, the prayer.
Pleasure. Yeah.
So that
With
we've got
pleasure.
it.
You can read it and then you've got it. That's
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
fine.
Thank
And
you.
say it, it's amazing. She can send it to you with pleasure.
Thanks,
Okay.
Want to
Bern.
make a note of exactly who's here, and I'll just send it to whoever's here, and then people must
Only if
request
they
it.
want it. Let them just text you and say,
All
I
right.
want it.
Okay.
I want it, Burns. Thank you.
Or just let me see, do you all want it? Just put your hand
Who
up.
doesn't
I
want
want it, please.
Okay, just let me take a picture of all the names.
Patricia and Evie who are here, okay, that they can get it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay, because if you get the prayer, you'll see, but the prayer has got wonderful explanations and these wonderful, because reading the prayer on its own, you may think, very nice, but when you hear the explanations of how you can apply it to your life, but I have no problem if you want to read it on your own. Not as exciting as I thought. It's a very exciting. It's called his aspirational prayer, which means he wants you to understand what I've given you this whole introduction to. He wants you to understand it. And why does he want you to understand it? Because when you do, your whole life changes and everything in your life changes. And that I can guarantee you. Everything, all your attachment. So let's dedicate, and then I'll open it for anybody who wants to tell me anything, because I think it's a very important teaching and I'm ready to give it, and I will give it with all my heart to all of you. And you can, if you want to text me about anything about today, you're also welcome. So let's just dedicate to all sentient beings, to all of them who are lost in the world, to all of them. Next one, Bern, not the four contemplations, to all of them who are lost in the world, to the people in the wars, to the people who've been killed, bereavement, terrible things that are happening in this world. We dedicate all of this to all of them being able to awaken. Through this merit, may we achieve all-seeing Buddhahood, and thereafter, once all harmful enemies have been defeated, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe tranam pamshene chegana chi balak tropaye sipe sole doa dro warsho.